Real estate has always been a tried and tested method of wealth creation, with around 90% of millionaires attributing their wealth to property. A further 50% of global billionaires can also attribute their wealth generation to the area of property development, which speaks to how lucrative the industry can be. However, for all its potential to create financial success, it also does come with a significant warning, and that is the financial risks involved in property development, which has led to many entrepreneurs filing for bankruptcy. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be explaining the top 4 reasons why I think you should avoid property development, but hopefully leave you with some useful information that can help you decide whether property development is the right business for you. My name is Aaron. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor and owner of Haydon Construction Services, a management consultant to the real estate development and construction industry. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, reason number 1, avoid property development unless you have money. Now, you've probably come across a lot of these property gurus online that tell you that you can get rich in property development by using other people's money and that you can make money through property development with no money of your own. But unfortunately, this is just simply untrue. The reason being is because most investors that are going to invest money into your deals will like to see that you have some form of skin in the game, and that means some sort of financial input into the project. And essentially, what that does is by having your own skin in the game, your own money invested in the project alongside your investors, what that signals is that you have confidence in the project that you've been appraising, that you're planning on purchasing and undertaking as a development. And so other investors will like to see that you've got some skin in the game and that they're essentially that you have something to lose if things don't quite work out. Now, there are 100% joint venture partners out there who will put 100% of money into a deal. However, you will still need to have money. And the reason being is because oftentimes joint venture partners will pay money into the project in arrears, which means that you will need to cash flow the project before you can draw down the funds from your joint venture partner. A joint venture partner will also expect you to set aside maybe 5% of the total build costs just in case there are any cost overruns. And this kind of acts as a buffer if the project becomes delayed or if the project runs over budget. It means essentially that you're funding the extra overcosts of the property development as opposed to going back to the joint venture partner for more money. And so it is extremely important to have money, even if you're not necessarily putting that money into the deal. If you can work out 30-day payment terms of your supply chain, and it turns out that you can actually cash flow the project in arrears with your investor, and so you don't necessarily need to put your own money into the deal, then that's absolutely fine. But you probably will need to have some money on hand available. Like I said, maybe a 5% contingency that will cover any extra overcosts without you having to go back to the joint venture partner and ask for more finance. Now, reason number 2, avoid property development if you are lacking in knowledge. Now, the average successful property developer usually comes from a background in construction, whether that be as a chartered quantity surveyor, as a project manager, or as a contractor. Those individuals who have forged a career within the industry and already know the ins and outs and the risks and the benefits and how to run construction projects are those who are most likely to have success within the industry. Other types of professionals who also see a lot of success within the industry tend to be your professionals such as your architects, possibly your structural engineers, as these guys will have links and contacts within the industry. They're also professionally trained in the areas that they operate in, such as the actual design and feasibility of construction projects, alongside other professionals such as real estate agents, those who specialize in the sale of land and buildings and properties within an area. They may have a very specialist knowledge about prices, about the local market. They may have access to property deals before they go live on the wider public market. And so they therefore have the pick of any good opportunities that would be perfect for a property development. So if you don't come from this background, unfortunately, these are the people that you're going to be up against. You're going to be competing with professionals who have forged a career within the industry, who have very good contacts, who understand risk. And it's very difficult to compete against people who have a knowledge which is superior to yours. And so that's why I would always recommend that unless you come from a background within the property development sector, I would seriously consider whether property development would be the right course of action for you and your business, unless, however, you are able to form your own team. And that leads me on to reason number three. Avoid property development unless you have a good team. Now, as entrepreneurs, we do tend to be very self-confident and also independent in our way of thinking and acting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, in the property development industry, it's not necessarily a strong trait to have. And the reason being is because the property development sector is so multifaceted and complex that you have to depend on the skills, knowledge, and expertise of others in order to successfully deliver construction projects and succeed in the area of property development. And so a failure to build good connections within the property development industry will leave you at a disadvantage. And so it's very important that over a sustained period of time, you've taken that time to get to know other professionals within the industry, build up a team which could potentially consist of architects, structural engineers, quantity surveyors, project managers, contractors, other professionals that specialize in planning and building regulations. It's very important that you take the time to build those connections before you start out in property development. And this is going to give you a lot of credibility also when it comes to funding your development projects, because a funder, such as a bank or even an investor, will look at you more favorably if you're able to build a sound team and a strong, experienced team around you that can make up for the potential skills or knowledge gaps that you may have. And you will need to have good team members around you who are going to fight your corner when things get tough. Because in the area of property development, things happen. You often run into issues on site, and if, say, for example, you've got a good contractor who you've got a really good relationship with, they're able to deliver the project on your behalf and make you well aware of any potential risks or issues that may come up on the project before those issues become apparent to you. And also, having a good technical design team can help you through the process of getting planning permission for a site that you may be thinking about acquiring. They may be able to design the project which is efficient in terms of both time to deliver the project and also costs in terms of building materials. A good quantity surveyor will also help you to appraise a project, making sure that it's viable before you take the next steps to purchase the property. A good quantity surveyor will also help you to manage the costs of the project to help you prevent going over budget. And having a good project manager on board can ensure that your project is delivered smoothly and that all health and safety regulations are being met on the project and that you don't run into any health and safety issues or any issues regarding building regulations or potential problems with local authorities, and that the project is being delivered in accordance with the design. And so having a great team around you is going to make it so much easier to deliver property developments. And so therefore, if you don't have a good team around you, I would reconsider whether property development is the right business for you. And reason number four, avoid property development if you have a short-term mindset. Now, property development is a long-term game. We're talking 3, 5 years, 10 years of building those connections and experience and track record and funding before you can even really begin to take off and have enormous success within the industry. However, a lot of property gurus who are selling training courses will often tell you or will often pitch to you that property development can be a get rich quick scheme and that you can go from 0 to 1 million within 12 months. It's absolutely not true. You do have to have patience within this industry, and you have to have a long-term mindset. And a perfect example of this is just how long it can sometimes take to get planning permission for your development projects. Now, I worked with a developer before who owned a site that had an old barn on that particular plot of land, and he wanted to convert that barn into a four-bedroom dwelling. Now, it was in a conservation zone, and so therefore the planning process was extremely tedious, and it ended up taking 7 years before the local authorities granted planning permission. Now, this is quite unusual, and I think that the local authorities have targets to approve planning permission within 3 to 6 months. However, this is just a perfect example of how things can overrun, and it's not unusual in some cases for planning permission to take up to 1 year or 2 years to get in place, and much longer on larger property development opportunities as well. And so this is why you have to be a long-term thinker. It can also take months to get development financing in place for a potential property development deal. Now, if you think about going back and forth with a landowner or a building owner because you're interested in purchasing that site, you're probably going to be getting into negotiations about price. You're probably going to want to do your own cost appraisals, risk assessments. You're going to want to hire professionals to get involved and start looking at potential planning feasibility, as well as working with a quantity surveyor to get financial feasibility. These things take time. And then even once you've decided to go ahead with the project, it can take months to get financing in place simply because there's so many checks and balances that the lenders will put you through in order to make sure the deal stacks up and that it's going to be a safe investment for them. We've also seen in recent years the fluctuation of interest rates, which can determine the borrowing cost. It could mean that a project that was once viable on paper could be significantly impacted if interest rates go up. And it could mean that a lot of hard work that you've put into appraising a deal and potentially moving forward with financing is now unfeasible because the interest rates are so high. It may be a case that you have to walk away from that development project and source another deal that could work with a little bit less financing. Or it could mean that you have to work with another investor and give up a little bit more of the percentage profit in favor of moving away from bank lending, which is charged at the higher interest rate. So there's so many different variables that could happen. A lot of it is out of our control, but if you're prepared to ride the wave over a period of 3, 5, or even 10 years, I can almost guarantee that you will see some success within this industry. So 100%, you've got to have a long-term mindset. And if you have a short-term mindset, then property development probably isn't the right business for you. And so that's it for today's video. I really hope you got something useful from this. Drop me a comment below. Let me know if you're considering getting into property development, and also like this video and subscribe to this channel to watch more educational videos on the subject of property development and construction. And if you do need assistance with any of your projects, whether it be appraising property development deals or cost estimating, feel free to reach out to me. This is a service that I offer. I'll link the details in the description. Once again, my name is Aaron. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor and owner of Haydon Construction Services, a management consultant to the real estate development and construction industry. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.